It happened. The Marvels broke every record for a superhero film. The record is just embarrassingly bad.
The following is a world-class Bullshitters exclusive.
The Marvels is an absolute failure. The $200 million superhero picture from Disney is breaking records in its second weekend box office drop. Now, it's true that all films have a second weekend drop, but The Marvels is nearly double the average, meaning the film is dead in the water. Marvel is scrambling behind the scenes as the state of the entire MCU is in jeopardy. But before we take potent potables for 500, Alex, today's video is brought to you by me, Jeff Hicks, and my graphic novel, Stealing Solo. Stealing Solo asks the greatest what-if question of all time. What if a group of disgruntled Star Wars fans kidnap Harrison Ford and force him to remake Star Wars in their basement? That, and a whole lot more, is answered in Stealing Solo, a Captain's Parody. Stealing Solo has been called Laugh Out Loud Funny and the greatest Star Wars parody since Spaceballs, and it's available now for a limited time only. Go to StealingSolo.com, which is powered by Shopify, so you get the reward-winning safety and security, and get yourselves a copy today. Once we sell through this limited backstock, I'm going back to the drawing board to bring you the sequel, which parodies Luke Skywalker's fall from grace, and finally the closing chapter, which I can't wait to get to, Frankenfisher, the Bride of Solo. And yes, it's exactly what you think it is. So folks, the only way to get that is go to StealingSolo.com right now, get yourselves a copy, and enjoy the greatest Star Wars parody since Spaceballs. Marvel has egg on their face. Their 33rd film, The Marvels, a feature that cost over $200 million, is a massive failure. Last weekend, the movie brought in $46 million. This weekend, divide that by a lot. Per The Hollywood Reporter, The Marvels registered a 78 to 80% drop-off in its second weekend at the box office, and Marvel's worst second weekend drop of all time. Released just 9 days ago, this would also be the worst drop of any Hollywood superhero movie. Previously, the critically panned Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania held the record, falling 69%. The Marvels is tipped to earn between $9 to $10 million this weekend, behind Trolls Band Together and the Hunger Games spin-off The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. The Marvels had opened to unconvincing critical reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, scoring 52%, and the consensus being it's good action and humor, yet an underutilized villain and script issues. The movie fared better with general audiences, opening at 85%. Grossing only $120 million so far against a budget of over $200 million, it's unclear how this bodes for the Marvels' future on the big screen. Superhero films more generally are also struggling to land at the box office. The numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for the Marvels. It's not a surprise that a film with such little hype and general interest would fail, but how far it fell is perplexing. On average, if a film retains the same number of screens, the drop is 40%. Anything above a 60% drop indicates a weak future. At 80%, The Marvels is blazing a new path into ignominy, a higher, further, faster path that no film of this level has ever reached. Not only does The Marvels have the biggest drop-off in the history of the MCU, it's the biggest drop-off in the history of comic book films, and the most expensive film to suffer such a massive drop. The 2017 film Collide holds the record for the highest weekend drop in the history of cinema, with an 88.5% drop. While that's worse than The Marvels, Collide also cost about a tenth of what The Marvels did. The next film on that list, National Champion, had an 88.4% drop, but it only cost $8 million to make. The rest of the list is populated with other smaller films and re-releases. By all metrics, The Marvels is the biggest film in history with an 80% drop. Recouping the budget to break even isn't even possible anymore. Hollywood accounting dictates that a film needs to make 2.5 times the budget to break even. The Marvels is listed as having a $200 million budget. It would need to make $500 million just to break even. That isn't happening. Other superhero films have had second big weekend drops, but nothing has been as bad as The Marvels. Speaking of bad, let's break down how bad the numbers are for this film. The film brought in an estimated $10 million in its second weekend across 4,030 theaters. That's a 0% drop in screens, but nearly an 80% drop in sales. Breaking that down even further, each theater brought in a paltry $2,481 for the weekend. That's $827 per theater per day. If you take that number and divide it by the average price of a movie ticket in the United States of $10.50, we find that each theater sold 78 tickets per day. It gets even worse. Using my local Regal to determine the amount of showings per day, we see that there are 9 screenings on average per day. That's about 9 people per showing. The average movie theater holds 200 to 300 people. Each showing of The Marvels was 3.6% full, or 96.4% empty. That's an embarrassing number that Disney can't explain away. The Marvels was a film very few people wanted. The hype for the film was virtually non-existent, and the outcome was legendarily dismal. The first Captain Marvel opened to $153 million and dropped 56% in its second weekend. What happened to the Captain Marvel brand to allow a drop so severe? Well, it's quite simple if you followed the drama surrounding the first film. Captain Marvel was built as a life-changing event for women. The media bought into the hype and promoted the film as the second coming. Special interest groups were buying out theaters to take girls to the film because it was so important of an event. American Eagle was also giving away free tickets to anyone who spent $50 in their stores. There were a lot of extras to Captain Marvel's box office. While a hit, it was sandwiched between two massively successful Avengers films. The Endgame bump was real. The hype for that film trickled down to other MCU pictures, and Captain Marvel benefited massively. Now that Endgame is over, the Marvels had to go it alone. There's a new campaign where Marvel is attempting to sell this film on the simple fact that it's fun. In it, a group of paid actors are trying to convince audiences to go see the movie. Let's take a look at it.
Being exhilarating and just awesome.
It is something that you have never seen before.
Yeah, that's enough of that. This reeks of desperation. This eclectic mix of buffoons telling you how great the movie is just pathetic. Every time I heard another one of them spout out some pre-written copy, my brain erupted with this.
We wanted a lot from this movie, and we've come out, blown away. I'm gonna go home and book another ticket, because the Flerkens are so cute, they're my favourite part.
I want a Flerken for my own. My girl.
This ad is funny, but in the sad sort of way. And what's with the lack of diversity, Marvel? They're all white. It's 2023. Pay some black people to lie too. 2023 was a bad year for Disney. Outside of the political fight that the company's engaged in, their incredibly expensive films failed pretty miserably across the board. Ant-Man 3 was a big failure that caused studio execs to be fired and visual effects artists to unionize. The Little Mermaid was mired in controversy and barely made a profit. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny was a more expensive flop than the Marvels, though its second weekend drop was only 55%. The Haunted Mansion was a flop and barely remembered. Elemental struggled to just get profitable, and Guardians of the Galaxy 3 was the only big hit this year. The MCU feels pretty much dead, even if Guardians had a little life in it. Moving forward, there isn't another MCU film until Deadpool 3, which is the only MCU film in 2024. This may be a blessing in disguise for Marvel. Fans are tired of their less-than-stellar offerings. Marvel is trying to get off cheap by producing films with cheap actors, see the Young Avengers, and lowering the bar in terms of spectacle. After years of A-list talent and high-end visuals, Marvel has become the cheapest Hollywood studio, pumping out the Asylum-quality content, but spending through the nose on it. Hopefully, the superhero genre as a whole can get it together. Aquaman 2 isn't looking too great. The film may perform worse than the Marvels. 2023 has seen its fair share of superhero faceplants. Ant-Man flopped, Shazam flopped, The Flash flopped, Blue Beetle flopped, the Marvels flopped. This is the worst year on record for the superhero genre. The Marvels' failure is the result of many things. It's a film no one wanted. It's the sequel to a film mired in controversy that had fans questioning the validity of its success. It features an actor considered box office poison. It targets an audience that doesn't like superhero content. It required watching 2 full TV series on Disney+, and to top it all off, it's not a very well-made film. It could cost the studio upward of $300 million, which puts it in the same category as Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. At the end of the day, all of these failing Disney films feature characters that audiences can't stand, so they don't go to theaters to see the movies. In a year with such hits as Mario and Barbie, Disney spent most of 2023 licking its wounds. Even Five Nights at Freddy's has made far more than the Marvels. Five Nights at Freddy's also only cost $20 million and has grossed $271 million thus far. It's time for Disney to stop and reassess their brand. After 2023 kicked them in the nuts, the House of Mouse needs to do something new. A few more misses like this, and superhero movies are going on ice, Captain America style. So folks, what do you think of the massive failure that is the Marvel's second weekend box office drop? 80%? Come on, you can't even joke about this stuff. 80%. This movie was expected to make a lot in its opening weekend. It did not, and now it's barely made $10 million in its second weekend. And this is a Disney movie. This is the company that charges you $3,000 to stay at a Star Wars hotel. You have to mortgage your home to get a full vacation at Disney World. You have to spend hundreds of dollars a year to watch their streaming shows that lead into these movies, but ultimately it goes nowhere because it's not worth your damn time. It sucks to be a Disney fan. It's not even a Disney fan anymore. You're a Disney consumer. You exist to consume. Your opinions don't matter, so just shut up and take it. That's what Disney wants out of you. And audiences, they expect a lot more. The Marvels is the prime example of that. A lot of people are calling the movie woke, and they can call it whatever they'd like, but they can't call it a success. If the film is woke, they're definitely going to go broke, but even if the film's not that woke, it's still going to cause them to go broke, because this movie is terrible. A movie that is as bad as The Marvels deserves to fail. It wasn't fun, it wasn't funny, it wasn't life-changing, it wasn't any of the things those actors in the commercial were paid to say. It was a movie that will waste under 2 hours of your life, and that's the greatest compliment I can give it. At least it's short. But you really have to wonder how much of the Brie Larson saga cost this movie money. You can say that it's just angry trolls on the internet, but if it's just angry trolls on the internet, how come nobody else, the virtuous people, how come they didn't go out to support the film? They didn't show up to see The Marvels. Very few people did. And this weekend was bad. Could it make more money for the holiday? Probably not. I doubt families across the world are going to get together, have their turkey, go Black Friday shopping, and think to themselves, how can I ruin this really nice time with my family? I know, I'll go see a Disney movie. I'll spend way too much money, it'll be a waste of my time, and I could have been doing other things like literally anything. That's the priority that Marvel has, that's the priority that Disney has as a brand. Overexposure and underwhelming films equals this. This is what you get. Like the Joker says, you get what you deserve, and this is exactly what Marvel deserves. So folks, I want to know what you think about that. Here are your 3 questions down below. 1, did you see The Marvels? 2, what do you think of this situation? And 3, who do you think is the least offensive character in this film? You can base it off the trailers. I'd like to know your thoughts down below. But if you want to hear what we had to say, we gave this film a full review on WCBS episode 379 titled How Bad Was The Marvels? Well, it's terror that you can't possibly imagine. It's bad. It's really bad. But I'll save that for the podcast proper. So folks, thank you for watching. Before we go today, head on over to StealingSolo.com and get yourself a copy of the greatest Star Wars parody since Spaceballs, Stealing Solo. It features a group of disgruntled Star Wars fans who kidnap Harrison Ford and force him to remake Star Wars in their basement. It's been called Laugh Out Loud Funny, and it can be yours for a limited time only. And right now, for the holiday season, I've gone into the WCBS vault and I'm re-releasing the Fandom Menace edition. But since it's the time of giving, and well, I'm thankful for all of you, I'm giving you a massive discount on the Fandom Menace edition. You can get all 4 copies of the book for just $40. That's essentially buy 2, get 2 free. So folks, if you like Stealing Solo, and you want to give the gift that keeps on giving, and it's not the Jelly of the Month Club, well, give somebody a copy of Stealing Solo, the Fandom Menace edition. It celebrates the former YouTube community, and it features bonus content not found in the original copy of Stealing Solo. So go over to StealingSolo.com, get yourselves a copy right now, and tweet us at WorldClassBS once you get your copy in the mail. People send us wonderful messages all the time enjoying the book, and that's the best part of all of it, creating something that your audience enjoys. So folks, thank you for giving me that opportunity, and be on the lookout for the next opportunity to entertain all of you Wokebusters. That'll be available early next year. But until then, folks, be smart, be safe, be cool, but always be excellent to each other. Thanks for watching today's video. Yes, it's over, but don't cry because there's more, a lot more from World Class Bullshitters. And there's only one way to get it. Hit that subscribe button below. When you do that, you'll get notifications and updates from World Class Bullshitters every time we go live. Basically, you won't miss anything. And if there's one thing I hate, it's FOMO. But the thing most people hate more than FOMO is fear of missing out on World Class Bullshitters, because there's just some things you can't undo. So folks, do yourselves a favor and never miss anything from World Class Bullshitters. One last thing before you go, hit the thumbs up button. Not for our egos, no, they're big enough as this, but it does help us fight the algorithm here, and well, it's man versus machine, and that's the real fight. But if that's not your battle, that's okay. There's one last way you can help WCBS, and that's going over to shopwcbs.com, picking up a t-shirt, a beer glass, a sweatshirt, a poster, all sorts of ways to back WCBS. The difference between us and other YouTube channels is I'm the artist that makes all this stuff, so if you enjoy art beyond t-shirts, you can even read our comic books. We got it all. We're called the epitome of pop culture for a reason, and no, again, it's not for our egos. So folks, make sure you're involved with every aspect of World Class Bullshitters, not just for us, but do it for yourself. We're making the change in entertainment everybody out there wants to see. And a special thank you goes out to all of our wonderful patrons who make this content possible. Go to patreon.com/worldclassbs to get involved and help out the channel.